Hey, what's up guys, here Betomoedano with another video, and today's video we are going to learn how to use the camera with React Native, and we are going to be building basically a clone of a camera. And of course, when we are dealing with the camera in our with React Native, we need to have a physical device to check it out. So I have here a recording that I did on my iPhone, and I'm gonna just play it here for you guys so you can see what we are gonna be building today. As you can see, the first thing that we are asked is for permissions for the camera and the library. And then we can reload the app and we can see that now we have our camera in our application. And we have a couple options here like flash and rotate camera. And there I activate the flash, and now I'm gonna take a picture there. And after I take the picture, we can see the flash back there. And now I can hit retake after we take that picture. And now without flash, I'm gonna take another picture, and there we have it. Now we have the option to save it, and that's it. We got an alert that the picture was saved, and we have that message on the console that the picture was saved correctly. I can hit rotate camera to rotate to the front camera and go back again, and that's pretty much what we are going to be building today, guys. So if that's something that you are interested in, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and without further ado, let's start. Okay guys, as I usually do, all the resources for this tutorial, like the code, links, resources, and everything else, it's gonna be on my platform Code with Beto. I'm gonna leave the link in the description below so you can check it out. And here you can get the dependencies that we are gonna use and the links to download, check the GitHub, and pretty much everything else you need to build this project. All right, so now I'm going to bring my terminal, and the first thing that I'm going to do is to create my project. Today we are going to be using Expo, so I'm going to run the command Expo init, and then I'm going to put a name for my app. I'm just going to name it tutorial camera. For this time you can choose whatever name you want, and I'm going to select the blank template for this application. Now we just wait for the app to be ready. And after it's ready, we can access to the carpet tutorial camera that we just create. And once we are in that carpet, we can run the command code dot to open it on Visual Studio. And as well, we can say end and Expo start to start the server as well. I hit enter and Visual Studio is open and my server is running. Okay, so now I'm just gonna press I to open it on my simulator right here, and I can just minimize my terminal. And here in Visual Studio, the first thing that I'm gonna do is to install dependencies. We're gonna need a couple dependencies, so I'm gonna go again to Code with Beto, and here I'm just going to copy Expo Media Library and Expo Camera. So I'm just gonna run it here. Expo Media Library and Expo Camera as well. So I'm just going to paste it here, hit enter, and that's pretty much all the dependencies that we need for this project, guys. So now I'm gonna go to my app.js file, and here I'm just gonna start deleting some stuff that we don't need, like the status bar. And I'm gonna delete as well this text that we have for default by default, and now we can start working. The first thing that I'm gonna do is import the camera from Expo Camera, and I'm gonna import as well camera type. After that, I'm going to import as well all as media library, and we're gonna need media library to be able to save pictures to our phone, because when we take pictures with the camera, that picture is saved in the cache, but maybe we want to save that picture, right? So we need to we need to have access to the media library of the phone. And after that, the first thing that we need to do is to ask for permissions to use the camera and the media library access, right? So we're gonna need a couple of variables here. I'm gonna start by declaring has camera permissions. And for this, we are gonna use state. It's a React hook. So we can say use state, and I'm gonna initiate it at null, and I'm gonna import React up here, React and use state like this. And now that I'm here, I'm gonna import as well use effect from React like that. Perfect. We also are going to need another variable to keep track of the image. So I'm gonna set const image set image equal to use state as well. Use state, and I'm gonna initialize it at null as well. And now we need another variable called type. This variable type is going to keep track of the type of camera that we have right now. For example, we can start our camera with the front camera or the back camera. So at the beginning, I want my camera to be the back camera. So I'm going to say use state, and I'm going to initialize this variable to have the back camera. So I'm going to say camera dot constants. And when we set constants, we can access a couple of things here for the camera. And I'm gonna choose type and then type back. This way we assure that when we open the camera, it's gonna be the type of camera, it's gonna be the back camera, not the frontal. We're gonna need a variable to storage the flash setting as well. We're gonna use state, and we are gonna do something similar that we did with the type of camera. I'm gonna say camera.constants.flash mode, and flash mode right there. As you can see here, we have a couple options like to take a videos, even balance the white colors and all that. You can play with those settings as well. For now, we are just going to stick with flash mode and type for now, just to see how this works. So I'm gonna say flash mode dot off, and the last variable that we are gonna need, and I think it's the most important variable, it's a reference to the camera. So I'm gonna say camera ref, and I'm gonna say equal to use ref. It's another hook of React, and I need to import it as well. And I'm gonna initialize it at null as well. So I'm gonna import up here use ref. I'm gonna go down here, and that's pretty much all the variables that we need for now. As you can see, you can add a couple more variables if you want to keep track of some settings of the camera, but for now that's all we need. So now the first thing that we want to do is to get access to the camera and the image library. So I'm going to use a use effect, because we know that use effect runs when the component mounts, right? So it's the first thing that we are going to do when the user opens the app. So I'm going to say async, because we're going to need to await for the response. And simply we can say media library dot request permissions async, and just like that we are going to ask for permissions to use the media library. Now for the camera, it's a little bit more complicated. We want to store the status of the permission, so we're going to say camera status equal to await camera dot request camera permissions async, like that. Now once the user sets the permissions, we need to set our variable set has camera permissions, and we're going to set camera status dot status equal to granted. So if the user granted the permissions, this variable is going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false, right? So if I hit save now, nothing happens, and that's because this function is not running. So I'm going to open these two parentheses, and that way we assure that this function is running. If I hit save, we can see that I'm getting asked on my phone here if I want to allow permissions, and I'm gonna say yes. One is for the library and one is for the camera, and I'm gonna say yes for both, okay? And now I think we can start working with the camera. So inside this view, I'm gonna start by saying camera, and this camera component can contain a couple of stuff, right? Like a style, for example, and I'm gonna add a style called camera. I haven't done this style, but I'm gonna do it in a couple minutes. And a type as well. And for the type, we want to be the type of our variable that we have up here, type. So that way we assure that when we change the variable type, we're gonna change the settings of the camera as well. We're gonna do the same for the flash. We're gonna add the variable that we have up there, flash and type, perfect. And lastly, we want to add our reference to our camera, to our variable camera ref. So I can simply say ref equal to camera ref. And once we do this, this camera ref stop being null, and now it contains the reference for the camera, okay? Perfect. And I'm going to close my component like this because we want to have stuff inside the camera, like buttons, views, and whatever you want to have inside this camera. You can see the camera as a view. You can have some stuff inside the camera, okay? So I can just say now text for now that says hello, and there we have it. If I hit save, we can see the hello there, but I mean, we can't see it because it's black. So I'm gonna start by creating some styles here, okay? I'm gonna start by deleting this line of style, and that way we assure that we are taking the full width of the font. And back here and down here, I'm gonna say camera to add the style for my camera. And for the camera, I'm going to simply say flex equal to 1 for now. And 1, and there we have it. It's now using the full space of the window. Now I'm gonna say border radius to 20 for now, right? Perfect. So now all the black screen in our iPhone, in our simulator, it's a camera. Of course, we don't see anything because it's a simulator, but it's our camera. And now we want to create our buttons. We're gonna have 2 buttons at the bottom. The first button, it's gonna be to take picture, right? So I'm gonna create a view. And inside this view, we are going to have our button to create camera, right? So the first thing that I'm gonna do is go to my Explorer, and I'm going to create a component for my button. So I'm gonna say source, and inside source, I'm gonna create another folder called components. And inside these components, I'm gonna create a file called button.js. Okay, so because we are gonna be using a lot of buttons inside of our camera, so I'm going to create this component, so it's gonna be more easy for us to just add buttons in our camera. Okay, so I'm gonna start here by importing all as React from React, and now we are going to we're also gonna need a text, and because we want to have a button, I'm going to have a touchable opacity and a style sheet because we are gonna add some styles to our button. Okay. And because sometimes we don't want to have just a button with text, we want to have icons. I'm going to add ntypo from the icons of Expo, okay? So adding this ntypo, it's gonna allow us to just have icons when we want just to have icons instead of text for the button. So now back here, I'm just going to export default this button, and I'm gonna open my function like that. But here we're going to receive some props, right? Some props for this button, and those props are gonna be a title, it could have a title. It's going to have an on-press event when the user presses this button, an icon, and a color. And what this button is going to return, for now I'm just going to say touchable opacity. And inside this touchable opacity, we are going to have our icon, first thing. And this icon is going to have a name. And this name, we're going to pass it as a prop. So I'm going to say icon. Now we can specify the size for this icon. And I'm going to say 28 for now, and a color. And this color, as you can see, we can have it as a prop, but as well, sometimes we don't want to pass a prop color. So we're going to check if we have a color, we're going to put this color, but if we don't have any color, we are just going to put it white. So I'm going to say F1, F1, F1. Now we're going to have a text after the icon. That can be the title of the button. And this text is going to have a style as well. So I'm going to say style equal to styles.text. I don't have this style yet. I'm going to create it in a couple moments. And inside this text, we're going to have the title, just like that. Perfect. So now we are also want to have the function onPress here. And onPress, we're going to say onPress. That is the function that we are going to pass as prop to this button. Perfect. Now I'm going to add a style here, styles.button. And now we can create our styles back here. So I'm going to say const styles equal to stylesheet.create. And here I'm going to create the class button for my button. And for my button, I'm just going to say height of 40. And I'm going to set a flex direction row because we want to have the icon to the left and the text to the right. So we can simply say row here. And lastly, align items center. Perfect. Justify content center, of course. And I guess that's all for our button. I'm gonna create a class for my text. And we don't have a semicolon. We want a semicolon here. Perfect. And we want to say font weight equal to bold because we want the text to be a little wider. And font size of 7 and font size of 16 and color of F1, F1, F1. Perfect. Margin left of 10. And if I hit save now, this component should work now. So I'm going to go now to my app file. And here inside our view, we can just simply call our component button. So I'm going to say button and notice that it's imported automatically up here from my source and components. And this button is going to take all the properties that we just defined. We're going to start with the title and I'm going to say title, take a picture. I'm going to pass the icon that I want that this component to have, this button. And the name of this icon is camera. And if I hit save now, we can see that we have our button in this side of the screen. But our background is white. That's why we can't see it. So I'm going to change it to black. And now there we have our button, take a picture. Perfect. But of course, we needed a little bit more inside of our save area view. So I'm going to simply put a padding button of, I don't know, maybe, let's say like 15. If I hit save now, I'm going to change it for 20. You can play with this value, of course, or you can add a save area view for this. And after this, we now can, of course, I was forgetting, we have to add this validation here because in the case that the user don't allow to use the camera, we can just check if that variable is equal to false. We're going to say no access to camera, okay? So the user knows what's going on. So if we don't have access to the camera, we're going to show that text. But if we do have access to the camera, we want to start by creating our function to take a picture, right? So I'm going to say here, const take a picture. And in this function, it's going to be an async function. And inside this function, the first thing that we want to do is to check if we have a reference to the camera. So I'm going to say if camera ref, we want to do a try catch. And I'm going to say const data equal to await camera ref dot current and now dot take picture async, right? And we close the function, and just like that, we are going to take a picture when we call this function, right? So after we have the picture, I'm going to say console.log the data just to see what's happening on the console. And after that, I'm going to set my image variable to be the data dot URI, because our image is going to have a URI, and we need to reference to that URI to see the picture. Now I'm going to say catch error, and in the case of that we have an error, I'm just going to do a console log error. And now I can just simply call my function take picture when I press this button, right? So I'm going to say here take picture on press and hit save. And that's pretty much all we need to be able to take pictures every time we press this button, right? And as you can see, when I hit take picture, we can see here that in the console we are getting this image that the simulator is taking. And as you can see, it's an object that has a height, a width, and a URI. So we are simply taking the URI and we are saving it in our variable image. So we need to reference this URI to show the image to the user. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is that whenever we have an image or our image is different of null, we want to show the image, right? But if we don't have an image, we want to show the camera. So I'm gonna simply say, if we don't have an image, I'm going to show the camera like this. But if we have an image, we want to show the image, right? So I'm going to put an image here, and I'm going to close these curly braces. And now I'm going to import my image from React Native. So I'm going to say image here. Perfect. So now I need to add some style for this image to be able to see it, right? So I can simply say, oh, of course, and I need to add the URI to see the image, to the URI of my image, right? So I'm gonna simply say source equal to URI dot image, like that. Perfect. And I'm gonna add a style as well. And for the style, I'm simply gonna say styles.camera. That way we assure that we are gonna take the same size of the camera to show the image. So if I hit take picture now, we can see that we have this picture that the simulator is taking, and that's how we know that we have a picture now, right? So I'm going to reload now my app. I'm going to take a picture again, and we have that picture. That it seems like it's the time that you are taking the picture. So now we need to take out this take button picture when we don't have the camera active, right? So we can do something similar that we did up here with the image. So I'm going to check if we have an image. We want to show the options to retake picture and save pictures. So we're going to have those buttons inside this view. And in the case that we don't have an image, we want to have this button to take a picture. Just like that. If I hit save now, we can see that our button disappears and we have this empty view for now. Okay, so now I'm going to add these two buttons here inside this view, and I'm going to start by saying button like that, and title. I want to add a title, and this button is going to be called retake picture, because we are going to give the option to the user, if they don't like the picture, they can take another one, right? So for this button, we're going to have an icon called retweet, because retweet it's the more similar to go back, for example. And there we have it. If I hit save, we can see it there. And finally, I'm going to copy this button, and for the other one it's going to be save picture, and the icon is going to be the icon called checked. If I hit save now, we can see that we have our icon and our title. And I'm going to simply add a style for this view. This is going to be an inline style for now, and I'm going to say flex direction row and justify content equal to space between. All right, so there we have it, and I'm going to add a padding horizontal of 50. That way we assure that they are not in the corner of our screen. And that's it pretty much, guys. So we can add, for example, when we press retake picture, we want to simply set our image to null again, right? So I'm gonna say on press, and I'm gonna have this function inside this on press. I'm gonna put an arrow function, and I'm gonna simply say set image equal to null. And now if I go and press retake, our image disappears, and now our camera is back and our button to take a picture is back, right? And if I take a picture now, we can see that we get our buttons to retake or save, and we also get the image. Perfect. Nice. If I hit retake, we have the camera, and if I hit take picture, we have this picture. Perfect. Now we need to add the functionality when we want to save the picture. Okay, so we are gonna need another function similar to the take picture function. And it's going to be an async function as well. And we're gonna need to use the media library access, right? So I'm gonna save image for this function. It's gonna be async as well. The first thing we need to do is to check if we actually have an image to save, right? So if we have an image, we're gonna do a try catch again. I'm gonna close this catch. And in the case we have an error, I'm just gonna do a console log of the error like that. And inside the try, I'm simply gonna say await media library like that dot create asset async, and this function takes an asset as a parameter, that is the URI for our image. And that's pretty much all we need for this function. I'm just gonna let the user know that the picture was saved correctly in the case that it was actually saved. And I'm gonna set alert picture saved. Okay, and set the image equal to null as well, because we saved the image, we don't need it there anymore. We want to have the camera available again, so I'm gonna set the image to null, right? So if I hit save now, nothing happens because this function hasn't been added to my button down here of save image right here. So I'm gonna add on press option here, and I'm gonna call my function save image. Perfect. So if I hit save now, nothing happens in the simulator, but we get this error or this message in the console that the file is not supported yet. And that's because we are in a simulator. If you run this application in your device, it should be working now. Okay, so now we can take pictures, we can retake pictures, and we can save pictures. Perfect. So now we want to add the buttons that we are going to have inside our camera. That is going to be the rotate camera and the flash option. Okay, so inside this view, inside the camera, we're going to have another view, and inside this view, we're going to have our buttons. For this view, we're going to have pretty much the same styles that we have in our buttons at the bottom of the camera. We're going to have a flex direction row, justified content, space between, and I'm going to add a padding horizontal to have this that nice space from the horizontal side. Okay, and inside this view we're going to have two buttons. The first button is going to be our rotate camera, so we don't need a title for these buttons. I'm just gonna pass an icon name, and my icon name is gonna be retweet as well. Okay, this button is gonna be to rotate the camera, and I'm gonna close my tag like that, hit save, and we can see our icon here. And now I'm going to add a padding. Instead of being horizontal, I'm gonna just add a padding of 30. That way we are sure that we don't lose our icon up there in the new iPhone. Perfect. And we are gonna add a flash. And there we have it, guys. We just need to add the functions to do the changes when we press these buttons. This actually is gonna be a little more easy because we can do this inside this component. I'm just gonna say on press, and when we press this retweet icon, we want to change the type of camera. If you remember at the beginning, we set the type to be front camera, and now we can just simply say set type, and we are gonna access to the camera constants as well. So first we need to check if the type of the camera is front, and that we can check it like camera type.back like this. If that is true, we want to set the camera to be the front, right? So I'm gonna say camera type front. And otherwise we want to put the camera type to be the back. So same thing, camera type dot back, like that. And similarly, we're gonna pretty much do the same for the flash. We're gonna add an on press here, like that, and we're going to have an arrow function like this. And I'm gonna say simply set flash. And here we want to check if the flash is equal to camera like this, dot constants, dot flash mode, dot off, right? So here we are checking if the camera is, if the flash of the camera is off, we want to set it on, right? So we can simply pretty much write the same thing, camera.constants dot flash mode, and we are gonna set it to on. And if the case that it was already on, we're gonna set it off. So I'm just gonna simply copy this and paste it down here. And instead of on, we want to be off. Perfect. And pretty much that's all we need for these two buttons. And of course, it's not working in this simulator. And when we have the flash active, my idea is to change the color because we don't have another icon for the flash when it's not active. So I'm going to simply change the color of this icon, okay? So we can do pretty much the same thing. If you remember, the component button receives a color property, and we can simply check if the flash is already, if the flash is on or off. If the flash is off, we want to be this icon gray. Otherwise, we want to be this icon white or F1, F1, F1. And as you can see there, it's gray, and when I push it, it's white, gray, white, gray. That way we assure that the user knows what's going on, if the flash is active or not. Of course, you can change the icons and all that for this functionality. And I guess that's it for this video, guys. Just to see what we built, I'm just going to put this video again. And here we can see pretty much all what we did, okay? First, we are getting these permissions in this use effect, and then we are seeing our camera and our buttons in action. And when I take a picture, we are calling this function of take a picture. And as you can see there, I have the flash active and on and off. In that case, it's on. And when I take the picture, the flash is on, it's working. I can retake a picture and set the flash to be off, and there we have it. I save the picture and I get the alert, so it worked and it's in my library. And as you can see, guys, all the things that we just did are working now. So if you like this video, guys, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you learned something. Remember that you can check all the resources for this video in my platform Code with Beto. The link is below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.